Scott Lacey, an athlete with Crosscut Mountain Sports Center's elite biathlon team, and I'm taking a quick break from the IBU biathlon circuit to do some marathons this February. I'd love to share my top 4 marathon training tips and race tips in this video. I hope you're excited. Marathons are some of the most fun ski races I've ever had. Let's get started. Alrighty, the first tip I have for training for marathons and getting ready to race is to go out and actually ski for as long as you will in a race. And I don't mean distance. Very rarely will you ski 30 to 40 miles if you're gonna do a 50, 60, or even 80K in that Vasaloppet. But you'll be out for a couple hours. A good marathon can take 2.5 to 5 hours. And it's rare that you're actually out in your equipment. You're in your boots, you're wearing those clothing. And so you don't have to cover the distance, but go out maybe a week or two, ideally multiple times, once or twice, and wear the same equipment. Make sure that your blisters and your boots aren't happening, that you don't get blisters. Make sure your race suit's comfortable. If you're gonna carry a pack, which we'll talk about soon, you experiment with that and what it feels like to wear those things. But really get out and ski. How does your body feel? Maybe that'll affect your fueling, which we'll talk about next too. Maybe at the end of the race, at the end of multiple hours, you want certain types of fuel. But really go out, experiment, see what it's like. Don't do this the day before the race. And in particular, don't do anything differently before the race. You've done your training at this point. Marathon season's upon us, but make sure you now can manage your equipment well and your body well. Alrighty, the second most important thing you can do in a marathon is get a great fueling system dialed. Marathons are really long races. They can be multiple hours. If you're gonna go do the Vasaloppet, you might be out for 4 or 5 hours. One system I've been dabbling with is having my bike belt. That's because they do make the Nordic specific insulated fanny packs that have the clip for you. I don't have one, but I do have this already existing. And so unless you have the newest, latest, greatest hydration packs or marathons, you can't just rely on aid stations. In fact, I really recommend taking fuel, whether that's hydration, a shot block, a goo, whatever, way more often than an aid station. Aid stations are typically every 5 to 10K, and I like to take a sip of fueling every 2K, if not even 1. Just a tiny sip, something that doesn't shock my body, not a huge gulp. And so I can carry this with me. I prefer drink mix that has calories in it, not just electrolytes. I can wear this. It's sturdy while skiing, it's not gonna move. I've loved having the water bottle in the past, but it's difficult when you're tired. You have your pull straps in your hands, you have a lot of stuff going on. I then did it in a classic race, and if you're double pulling, you have to functionally stop if you need your hands. So I have this great Camelback. It goes on my waist. I'm deciding how to keep it from freezing. One method is tucking it underneath my race top against my base layer skin and under my bib, and I'm gonna clip it right here. That way, as soon as I want, I can take a drink. It takes one hand, not both, and it's out of the way. Go out and test it. Wear this system. Wear what you're gonna race in. Move in it. Do some speeds. Ski. Make sure that it's really comfortable so that when you're out on the race, you have your fueling system dialed. You can take that fueling every kilometer or two, not relying on those aid stations, and it's a familiar system to you. Whether that's a water bottle, a fanny pack, the new latest and greatest, or if you do want to use aid stations because you've learned you don't need this, that's great. But just don't experiment for the first time on race day. The third marathon tip is 2 to 3 days out. Start eating well-balanced and generally carb-heavy meals. This allows the carbs to, instead of being transferred to immediate glucose the day of the race, or if you just eat the night before the race, your body will start to have time to process it into glycogen. That allows your body to store it within the muscles and fats of your body, which then is accessed during the race. So we talked a little bit about fueling. We talked about needing that instant glucose during the race, but also in a long race, a marathon can be up to 3 to 4 hours if you're racing a 50K or a 60K. You want those stores built into your body. One of my favorite race breakfasts that I start to eat every day before a race for 2 to 3 days out is a nice rice bowl with eggs, avocado, a little salsa. That allows some proteins and some really good fatty acids and the fat from the avocado, maybe a little cheese if you want. The rice is a simple carb that can be broken down throughout the day. And I'm not racing for 2 days, but this is my favorite meal to eat. So really start prepping your body in addition to hydration. You want your cells to be totally flooded with good hydration before the race. Then you hit the race morning and you're not dependent on just that oatmeal or just the pasta the night before. You can really have your cells and your body prepared for a long effort. The fourth thing I recommend doing for marathon prep is the day before, and that's really looking at the race course. I printed out the map for the one I'm doing in a couple days, and I'm looking at every part of the course. I'm identifying where they have aid stations, where the start and finish might be, where I want to take different feeds. This one is lucky. I have a big altitude profile or elevation profile. I can see where the big climbs are. If you're training for the Birkie, you know that it starts getting real flat the second half of the race. All the hills are in the beginning. And you can really start to identify where you want to do what parts of your race. Are you a really strong finisher? Are you a really strong starter? Do you want to have a different feed starting at 10K out from the finish? Do you want to begin the race with a certain type of food or fuel that you're putting in your pack that we talked about earlier? All of those things I like to think about the night before. I really start to visualize the race. I can use the map. This is a multi-lap race for a 45K. And then I can really picture that so that the morning of, every variable is taken care of. I've been loading my body. I have my fuel practice all dialed in. And now I'm looking at the race map and I can get the exact system that I want for the race. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned a few things. Marathons are some of the most fun ski races I've ever done. So put on those lucky race socks, eat your favorite pre-race meal, and go out, wear that sunscreen, and have a blast on those long races. All right, coming at you live, following all of my own advice for a 45K here in Crested Butte called the Alley Loop. Really fun race, by the way. We started the race this morning at -4 degrees. And so I had suggested tucking your Camelback hose in your shirt in case of freezing temperatures. And I am very pleased to say it worked very well. I have my bike fanny pack on and it's a little bit beefier, but it's insulated. I threw a hand warmer in there and then tucked it into my base layers, ran it up right next to my shirt. I could easily, while skating, use one hand, take a little, and never froze the whole time. It was over a 2-hour race because the snow was so slow being that cold. I carbo loaded, let all the glycogen build up over the last couple days, slept well the last couple nights. I made sure I was comfortable skiing for multiple hours. All that advice, it works. Good luck. So excited for marathon season. I'll see you at the Birkie.